Guten Abend und willkommen to another Total Soccer Show Cooligans crossover episode.
That's right.
My name is Daryl Grove. I am sitting in a circle in another hotel room with Christian Polanco. Hello.
Hello.
From the Cooligans with Alexis Guerreros. Hello.
Guten Coogan.
Guten Coogan to you too. And Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
That's Steve Coogan's cousin, Guten Coogan?
Dude, for
German
me, speaking
cousin?
German is just add the word Coogan to the end of stuff.
And he's really been trying this for like 4 days.
I feel like I got one thing right.
So it's a crossover special.
It is.
And like, if people don't know, we're in Germany on the Bundesliga media trip. Yeah, they invited
baby.
all of us somehow.
I understand why you two would be invited.
Yeah.
Us too. It doesn't really make much sense.
Watching the two of you ask like really dope, insightful questions during this whole thing has really made me think, why the hell am I here?
I'm going to say comic relief.
Yeah.
Some of your questions were funny.
Yeah, that's some of them have. I think I did kind of break a little news too with Alfie Morales when I said, "Are you expecting a call?" And he was like, "I hope so." Right?
Yeah, I mean,
don't
they
know
should
if
put
that's
that on
really-
top of all the newspapers.
Yeah, dude. Hell
We
yeah.
should buy every Dusseldorf newspaper tomorrow.
Breaking news, Alfredo Morales hopes he gets a call.
Forget what Trump just said.
But you did sort of like go touch and go with some of the German stereotypes of like, I think you asked, I forget who it was, you asked a guy a question and he was like, well, I can think of a few. And you're like, I asked for one.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at you for a minute and then chuckled, but it's that German thing of like, is he laughing or is he like plotting to murder you? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, that was that's the sporting director, right?
Yeah.
Lutz, what's it?
I wasn't ready to make that jump.
Pfannenstiel.
Pfannenstiel. Yeah,
Coogan.
that's what it is. That's it.
Fun and still Coogan.
Do you have any idea how amazed he is that I got that name right? I
didn't
can't
get it right
regular
because
words.
there were so few vowels that he just was
That's
able
the
to...
problem, dude. I'm moving to
man, right?
Scotland. They don't pronounce vowels.
He was what, the first player to play for every play in every continent?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Confederation
yeah,
of every
yeah.
continent?
He, until recently, was the player with the most clubs. He had played for the most different clubs.
Wow. And
He beat the crap out of Penguin FC when he was playing in Antarctica. And no chance.
They're very bad on set pieces.
Yeah.
Can't defend a header to save their lives.
Too busy.
He was interesting. right,
Happy
because-
Feet United. It was a strong team.
Yours is better.
Yeah.
Yours is better.
Happy feet till I die.
Bravo.
I'm happy feet
Bravo.
till I die.
So just for a bit of context, yesterday we were in Frankfurt.
I love you,
We saw
Christian.
Bayern lose 5-1 at Eintracht Frankfurt.
did.
Yeah.
And then today
you said that with a big smile.
Yeah.
well, someone next to me, I won't name them, said we're watching the crumbling of the Bayern Empire before our eyes. And it did have that feel about it, right?
I do
They'll probably
remember
murder someone
saying
next
that.
week, right?
Wait, somebody in this room said that, or is it the person sitting next to you during the game?
Somebody at the game.
Okay.
Who
All right, cool.
doesn't want it revealed
Gotcha.
who they
Okay.
support. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
I see where we are.
And then today we saw Dusseldorf beat Köln.
It was Niko Kovac who said that to Daryl, by the way. Awkwardly.
And it's all my fault.
Yeah, it was the sporting director of Dortmund.
So we saw Dusseldorf win 2-0 with Zach
Yeah.
Steffen in goal and Alfredo Morales really whacking into people in
Yes.
central midfield
Yeah.
and winning the penalty for the first goal.
It was...
With a Cruyff turn, I'm going to add.
I think he did, yeah. And then there's a question as to like how much you want to emphasize winning in that one, because
I mean, he definitely went down.
he definitely went down as to how much it was an actual like physical foul that knocked him over versus like there's some contact here, I'm going to go down.
Yeah.
It was also confusing to me because there were several guys who had the short on the sides, dark kind of longer hair on the top with the blue boots. And I kept being like, why is he? How is he down twice?
everywhere.
Like, it was really confusing.
There was a lot of similar looking people in the Dusseldorf team. It was very confusing.
Popping
All right.
up all over the place.
Are you ready for the first question?
Let's do it.
It's a tough one to answer. It's from Christian Geppert.
All right.
He asks, how silly do you find the Dusseldorfers' pride of their Altbier? Which we found out is like a dark beer.
Yeah, we haven't had it, and we haven't spoken to anyone. We might go out after this, so maybe we'll just add like an extra little clip.
Because we went straight to the stadium, right? And then our
Right.
hotel is attached to the stadium. We haven't even been into the town.
Can I ask you guys? I've never seen that before.
Apparently
attached
Manchester
to a
United
stadium?
has one.
A hotel, like not next to a stadium on the same grounds as, it's legitimately a
Connected.
part of.
Yeah.
But you could walk from the lobby directly onto the supporter section,
Yeah,
essentially.
we're like the raccoons at RFK.
Yes.
Hey.
Have you guys ever seen that before? I've never seen that
No, I've
before.
seen a Hotel Motel Holiday Inn, but I've never seen a stadium attached to a hotel and vice versa.
One guy who retired being a DJ in 1998 is going to get that and love that
You're
reference.
welcome. You're welcome. I'll say this: more stadiums should have it for lazy people like me. Because yesterday Frankfurt was an amazing game, but then it was like the walk back to the train and figuring out the train. We ended up having to take two different ones. Then it was another walk, and just there was a moment near the end of the game where I was like, "Oh, we're walking like 12 feet that way, and we're back at the hotel.
Yeah.
That's a terrific thing to get to experience.
I will tell you, we just spoke to some people who are like not supporters. They're not like, firm members or anything, but clearly love the team and are involved in it. And they're like, I was like, dude, it's so cool that there's a hotel. And they were all like, oh, you like that?
Yeah.
Very let down that I thought it was cool. And I'm like, yeah, I've never seen that before. And they're like, yeah. So anyway, no, I don't care that they like their stupid beer here. Let's move on to the next question.
Actually, I'll jump in to say this. I actually do not care at all because it's a different beer than like a hazy IPA or like a sour beer, which seems to be what every city in the United States claims as their like original beer.
Yeah.
So something that's totally different it's a refreshing change.
Hey, this is Daryl jumping in to let you know that we did go out in Dusseldorf's Old Town that night, immediately after recording this podcast, by the way, and we did try the alt beer, and I've got to say, it's not bad. It's like a brown malty lager type beer with a really foamy head, and for €1.90 a glass, I think Dusseldorfers can be pretty proud of it.
I loved the drink in Frankfurt, the Apfelwein. That was great.
That?
The
apple wine.
Oh, you didn't have it at the. Oh, you missed
it.
it.
Yeah. No, I was enjoying
By the way,
lovely.
this show not sponsored by United Airlines.
Yeah, no.
The opposite of sponsored by United Airlines.
But it is sponsored by the Latina woman in Newark Airport who got my man here.
Oh.
Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Auntie.
She got mad.
Yeah, she solved some
It's just
shit.
what a Latina who works for Lufthansa. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's a combo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They get things done.
She named her kid Lufthansa.
I will say this.
Lufthansa Ramirez.
Yeah.
She was talking.
Well, I'll tell you, get over here, Lufthansa. Get off the shed, Lufthansa.
Fly over here.
Yeah.
I really hope there's a kid somewhere named Lufthansa. She did at one point. This was the. I don't think I've told you all this.
It's named after where she was conceived.
My favorite moment.
Her brother's called.
celebrating.
Her brother's called Burger King bathroom.
That's a Ali G had that joke once that was like David Beckham.
Was it for Brooklyn Beckham?
Yeah, it was like Brooklyn Beckham, like, because where he was conceived, and he was like, "Oh, if that were the case, it would be like the booze at KFC." I think is what he said for him. But
Mine was funnier.
She was talking. She was talking to the Lufthansa woman was talking to a United help desk person, and about 2 minutes into it, she just straight up said, "You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. Put me on the phone with someone who does," which was terrific.
Love it.
That's that East Coast energy. Like, I ain't got time to waste with this white boy with a beard who trying to fly to Germany.
We've got a connected question. Brian Hansen asks, how would the Cooligans have handled the flight delays that Taylor endured?
Given how Alexis handles people knocking on the door of the
Our
bathroom,
cousin,
I'm gonna guess aggressively.
Our joint cousin handled it, so I think it's exactly how we would have
I'm going to say one would handle it logically and one would handle it
and the other one would be
loudly.
Christian. Christian would accept it and sit there and probably stare at his phone. I would be very loud.
Shots fired.
I would be very loud, and I'd try to get in the Sky Club.
Yeah, apparently I just let people just walk all over me and do nothing.
Christian, shut up real quick. Anyway,
He's like, okay.
Oh my God, you were all right.
Right, back to the soccer. Iron
really,
McGiant
Christian. I'm
asks,
sorry, Christian.
Iron McGiant asks, how was the quality of the officiating in the two games we went to? I.e., are refs terrible everywhere?
This one was more MLS-like.
Yeah, I thought this the
Dusseldorf game?
match.
Yeah.
I thought Cologne got kind of shafted a little bit.
Really?
I thought the ref was, especially when there were a couple times like 50-50 balls. He seemed to always go for give the ball to favor Dusseldorf. It seemed a little odd. There were a couple ones that seemed a little iffy, and the players rightfully so. I thought they were getting really upset. There was a hard challenge. Like it might have been 2 minutes into the game. Like it was already like from the beginning. We knew it was going to be a very physical match.
Oh, there was Dusseldorf nearly conceded as well after Alfredo Morales had a head injury.
Oh, right.
And a few players pointed at the head, and they let things play on. And Zach Steffen ended up making a big save. So maybe he just wanted to give Zach Steffen a showcase.
I think what happened is that he let the game get very physical in the beginning and let them play, and then he started doing those makeup calls. We're like, hey, well, you were physical before, so even though you just touched him now, I'm going to call it. And it just seemed like it was skewed. Like what you're saying, that it was like it looked like Cologne was being favored, Dusseldorf was being favored. I think those were all like makeup calls for Dusseldorf because they were getting thrown around the field in the beginning.
So you think he let it get rough to begin with? He's like, oh, I'm going to let a big derby happen, like rough and tumble. But then he was like, oh, this is getting out of control.
Yeah, I honestly, and then so it looks like the one was being favored over the other.
Yeah.
When it was in the beginning, the Dusseldorf players were all over the ground in the beginning, and no one was getting anything called.
How about
you've got. I think like with those games, it's one of those you have to make a decision one way or the other, and you either have to like stamp authority early and give the yellow card like 2 minutes in, or you've got to be okay with kind of letting it go.
Can't change your mind after 20 minutes.
Yeah, and
right?
I think he kind of waffled back and forth, and sometimes it's like, oh no, that could be a physical challenge. That's fine. And there were moments. I agree with Christian. I think it favored Dusseldorf a bit more than it favored Köln. But there were moments when like a Köln player would get shoved over in the back, no call. Dusseldorf would get the ball, turn and go to play. He'd get shoved in the back, and that was a call. And so whenever you have like that short of a time frame between that happening, it always looks a little bit more confusing.
Yeah, fair enough. Plus, there's the penalty, right, which we maybe need to see again.
I mean, and going the other way, I think you weren't back yet for the second half, but I felt like it was a fair shout for Köln to get a penalty, and then they did not. And then it was also one of those situations when they did get the penalty, the ball is kind of cleared, and then a Fortuna player was touched, and he went over, and that was given, and that was when the Köln fans really started to get annoyed by the situation.
Yeah, the Cologne fans were on one towards the end of the game.
How about yesterday's game? I didn't really notice the ref in Frankfurt,
which means that was the
Bayern.
best ref.
I think I was mostly shocked by the Bayern collapse.
Yeah. But I mean, the other thing, I agree, I didn't notice it as much, which means it was probably a little bit more like things went as they did, and they didn't need to be policed so much. The other thing is I think 3 different Köln players today got yellow cards for dissent, which sometimes means like, oh, the team is just frustrated and they're mad about the way things are going. They're losing 2-0, but a lot of those yellows came early in the first half when things didn't seem to be balanced out.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just saw my Bundesliga app just told me that Bayern has just confirmed that Niko Kovac has been relieved of his duties as coach.
But a week before the Classica.
Right. So right as we record this is huge.
So we've already committed one murder.
We got a body on us, baby.
We came to Germany. We're leaving.
Also, on my WhatsApp, it just popped up that Taylor is breaking the news to the group chat.
Oh no, it's already been broken.
Oh, has it?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Courtesy of Manuel.
Look at that.
Manuel Veth.
Stays on
coming
top
down
of
now.
stuff.
Kovac has been sacked.
Yeah.
All right, next question. It's from Greyhair Gaming. When will they, I think that means Total Soccer Show, when will they be having you on the TV? Oh, sorry. When will they be having you on the TV show, and when are you getting your own Fubo TV show?
First of all, when the check clears, and second of all, when the check clears.
I think this question came up
in DC.
In DC, and the invitation is very much open, and
we would love to have you in
it has
studio.
Since been rescinded.
Check getting clear.
What pushed us over the edge?
No, these guys are always welcome. We got to just figure it out. That's all.
All right, we'll make a date. Right?
It went from we could do it via satellite to in studio, and I feel like we're going to show up in New York, and you're going to be like, oh, it's got to be like in satellite studio. Like, no, it doesn't really work this way.
Just they can sit next to us, but we want them in a box that says they're on Skype. No, I mean I would prefer to have you guys in studio because I think it would be a better show. And frankly, I mean the network probably wouldn't want it, but I'd rather you're there for the whole thing, for the Tuesday and the Thursday episodes.
Okay,
I would much rather that. They probably won't do that.
Does that pay extra?
No, definitely don't. Well, I mean, yeah, because you just put both zeros next to each other. I guess it's twice as much zeros. But yeah, no, I'd prefer to have you in studio because I think it'd be a better conversation because we know each other so well.
Yeah.
But if the only option is to have you via Skype, I know you guys are like sometimes not in the same area, then maybe that's what we'll have to do.
Let's make this happen though. We'll really do this.
Alexis did mention that before we can be on TV, though, he wants to make sure that you're good on camera. So he wanted to have you sit on a couch. Is that what you said? And like he's going to ask you some questions, ask you about your history, and then we'll see what happens.
I just have to take this blue pill.
Do you want to be famous or what's up?
Okay, up next.
How you think Christian got on this podcast?
I'm thinking it over.
Note that neither one of them denied that.
Of course not.
Okay, here's a question we do not have an answer to.
We're not allowed to interview youth players anymore.
It's from Joshua Tripp. Joshua Tripp asks, what measures are the USL Championship, Major League Soccer, and US Soccer taking to grow the game in states like Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama, or in the Midwest like Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska? I think we can safely say we don't know.
I can say, to quote the late great Old Dirty Bastard, nothing.
I think speaking of Nebraska, I think it's people like Jonathan Galora who own Bug Eaters FC and other companies and other people that own small clubs like that. I can't imagine there's development happening outside. That and probably colleges. And and the other thing, too, is when we went to the United Soccer Coaches Convention, there's some really massive, like youth clubs and like traveling clubs or whatnot and academies that come out of the South. and those areas.
Yes.
I don't think
but
MLS.
is it the USL or US Soccer or MLS anything to do with that?
I think
no,
that,
right?
no, I
It's
think
happening
those are the only ones.
independently.
Yeah, it's happening
So
independently.
it has to happen in spite of those three.
I mean,
not
to
because
some
of.
degree, U.S. Soccer might be involved in funding some of the youth clubs and at the youth levels, maybe. But,
Yeah, but it's not a special effort, right?
Yeah, at a professional level.
There's no Arkansas task force.
No.
Can I?
It's long
U.S. Soccer
overdue.
got one scout. We got one full-time scout. Obviously, we ain't down
Is
there.
that still the case?
Yeah.
I think it keeps being like, well, that was the case, and we're looking to hire more. Is I feel like what they say, which means probably yes.
I always like to be fair to US Soccer in these things. It wasn't like they only had one scout who had to cover the entire United States. It was like one full-time guy who oversaw. He was like a technical advisor who oversaw the other part-time guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Still
It wasn't
not
one guy
enough.
with a lot of air miles.
But can I say this though to that point? Like as we learn
Jealous.
with
He's in the Sky
Lansing
Club.
Ignite though, like Lansing Ignite folded. Like their owner said they weren't making enough money, so that's that. Like. I don't know if we should be looking to USL Championship and USL League One as like avenues for growing soccer or like helping develop young players, like because I think to ask them to do that is to sort of put them in a position where they maybe are no longer financially stable if they are to begin with.
She'd say to the league, "Hey, how about you set up some teams where there isn't really a market?"
Yeah,
and they're like, "We don't want to do that."
Or just sort of like, they're kind of focused on short-term sustainability and growth, maybe not so much like the long-term aspects of soccer. So I feel like that does come down to the federation more so than individual teams in USL of either division.
Here's one thing.
Fair enough.
One piece of credit I'll give MLS is they took down the barriers, the geographical barriers for scouting.
Oh, for the development academy.
In other
stuff?
words,
yeah.
people are now easily. It's that you don't have to ask to scout in areas that aren't a part of someone's region. I think that's the actual rule.
Yeah, they've expanded where MLS teams for the development academies are allowed to go and find players.
So now areas, smaller clubs like Sporting Kansas City and Columbus Crew can essentially, dock a scout in, Mississippi or Arkansas because ain't nobody else going there right now because they don't have a club. So maybe that'll help.
Hey, this is Darryl jumping in one more time, not to tell you about alt beer again. This time I'm here to tell you about Manscaped, the number one company in men's below-the-belt grooming. Being in Germany, we've come to appreciate the benefits of precision. For example, the tram, subway and trains that we've taken, they all ran smoothly and safely. And precision couldn't be more important than when you're tidying things up down there, just south of the belly button. Manscaped's Lawnmower 2.0 electric trimmer has proprietary skin-safe technology so it won't snag, making mishaps a thing of the past for those who like to keep their delicate areas well groomed. If you'd like to get 20% off plus free shipping, go to manscaped.com and use the code TSS. That's 20% off plus free shipping. And aren't you glad that I didn't get the Cooligans to help with this ad read? Can you even imagine? Anyway, once again, it's 20% off plus free shipping when you use discount code TSS at manscaped.com. Your private parts will thank you, as will your bank account. Okay, back to the show. All right, let's go to a national team question.
Ooh, perfect.
James Lambert, who's the Screaming Eagles president.
Screaming Eagles, baby.
Okay, asks, what do you make of Wayne Rooney's comments complimenting DC United's uncomplicated management style? Does he have a point, or are more rigid systems necessary in a salary cap league? Do you guys know about this quote? We read it, right?
I don't.
What's the specific quote? Yeah.
So Rooney essentially said, Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the things he liked about MLS is that some of the coaches just give you quite sort of simple, uncomplicated instructions. And he also made a reference to
Areola.
And he specifically said Areola, right?
He said Paul, but yeah.
Said Paul says it's sometimes not the same with the national team where things are a little too overcoached and overcomplicated, which is obviously a reference to Berhalter's like positional play thing. Yeah. So the question is basically, what do we make of Rooney's comments complimenting DC United's uncomplicated management style?
I would say as a DC United fan, I get where he's coming from, but I think somewhere in the middle is probably what I would strive for, because I would say one of my criticisms of Ben Olsen historically has been, I don't know how well he adapts. I don't know how well he adjusts. We have seen him in person and on TV get out-coached, or the other coaches make adjustments, and he doesn't really respond to them that well. So I think there's something to be said for having sort of ways to adjust and ways to sort of overcoach.
Yeah.
That said, you can also overcoach and make things way more complicated, and you slow down the kind of free-flowing attack and the creativity of players. And I think somewhere in between those two is probably where I would try to hit.
Somewhere between Olsen and Berhalter is the sweet spot, right?
It does,
is the Tata Martino.
Yeah, exactly.
Does Rooney's comments sort of imply that that the American player maybe won't understand something more complicated,
or the American coach doesn't know it.
Tactics?
I don't know. You could also say it implies that like he just thinks maybe it's too complicated in the UK and maybe managers should back off.
That's possible
and
too.
let Wayne Rooney do what he wants.
I tend to lean towards it's a backhanded compliment, but I honestly don't think that that's a good thing, only because they didn't play so well. If you win a championship and you say, "Oh, and let me tell you something, I really appreciate how minimal he is," then you're like, "Oh, that's a compliment." They didn't even make the playoffs.
They did.
I mean, but they got bumped out the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's clearly not a good sign. So I think something like that, especially from someone who's British, and I know he's from Merseyside, and they're a bit more heavy-handed, but I think that's a backhanded compliment.
I more than anything, I appreciated his comments about the American player being taken advantage of and not being paid enough, and him sort of looking out for players, especially coming up on these new CBA negotiations.
He shouldn't have raised the salary cap on his way out, right? There'll be like an extra $5,000 in everybody's pocket that's like Wayne Rooney money.
Nice.
The
Rooney dollars, they'll be called.
The other thing, and I'm not the first person to suggest this at all, but like, the other thing that's fairly telling in there that I felt like was more important to take away from that is like, it's not as though he just instinctively knows that like maybe Paul Arriola feels overcoached. That's clearly a thing that he has heard and has heard vocalized
from Paul Arriola.
Yeah, which means that maybe there's some dissatisfaction with the way Greg Berhalter has been setting up his lineups and roster selections.
Yep,
and that maybe is slightly telling.
All right, you got time for a couple more, Christian?
Yeah,
good.
We're at,
Chris Alvafebi asks, if you had to create a Major League Soccer with the kickers in it,
I was very confused by this question.
What would the stadium's signature food be? So a Major League Soccer franchise with the kickers in it?
No, if you created your own MLS and the kickers were a part of it.
Oh, so like a Richmond team, and we'd have the stadium's signature food. Okay, so it'd be like a Richmond region signature food. Essentially, what's the Richmond region signature food? I said no food questions, please. I've been tricked into this.
Honestly, I don't think we have one, really. Like,
in Richmond?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different types of food, and there's lots of different things that are like Southern, but not necessarily from Richmond. And like,
can Pops just handle all the concessions?
That'd be fine.
Yes.
That'd be fine.
That's one of the best restaurants I've ever been to.
I mean, like
Pops Market on 4th and Grace, by the way.
Yeah.
5th and Grace, if you're in Richmond.
Can you think of anything?
I mean, to me, there's a lot of stuff that felt very new when I moved, but I don't know what's Richmond and what's Southern.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it would just be
pimento
beer.
cheese, is that all Southern or is that very Richmond?
That's all Southern.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. So maybe it's just beer. Is that all it is? I think
every mid-sized city has beer, right?
Yeah, it's probably barbecue. I guess I feel like that'd be the thing, that you get some good barbecue in there.
Okay.
And to be fair, I'm sure lots of different teams have that, but like we have lots of different barbecue restaurants. You get ZZQ up in there.
I've got it. White House rolls from U-Crops.
I changed my mind. That is definitely a thing that would be in there, but it'd be Mama Zoo. I want Mama Zoo rustic Italian.
Wow.
I want like formal, delicious, not even formal, but like very rustic giant plates of like mussels. That's what I want. I want mussels in the stadium.
With waiters that are rude to you and only take American Express.
Yes, and I've now answered this question for sure, because Istanbul street mussels were my favorite thing ever, and those are like mussels stuffed with rice, and you just like eat them out of the shell.
Yeah.
That's not really a Richmond thing, but we do have seafood, we do have mussels, so that's what I want.
Apparently, you have your own oysters, Virginia oysters.
Oh yeah, they're really from Rappahannock, right? But yeah,
but also
we'll
aren't like all oysters dying, and there's like 8 of them left, so I feel kind of bummed out by that.
8 are delicious.
That's what makes them taste so good.
You can taste
Can you
their
imagine
sadness.
how many
Their
fans would
invertebrate sadness.
Imagine how many fans would eventually get food poisoning.
Tastes like
so
extinction.
Imagine eating the last one, just saying goodbye.
I still have one frozen dodo steak that I'm just like saving until someday I need it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. One more question then, at least. Was asks, what do you make of Gladbach this season? I haven't watched them. All I know about them is their 2 goals were announced on the big screen at Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yes, which there's a giant bell that tolls.
Yes.
And it 100%, I'm stealing Daryl's point here, sounds like when somebody is killed in the Hunger Games. And it really, and then like they announce it on the scoreboard and this big like here is the score now, and it did feel very dramatic and scary.
It certainly did.
Yeah,
but Gladbach top of the Bundesliga?
They are top of the league, yeah.
So that's also all I know about them.
High pressing, high intensity, counterattacking. That's all from Matt
Herman told you
that. Yeah. I mean, I think I'll say this. Sorry, Alexis.
No, I was going to say, I do know that they do the high press,
Yeah.
but I knew that before.
You hold up one finger.
Proud of yourself.
Yes. I'm the reason we're all on this trip. I'm the only one who watches Bundesliga sometimes, apparently.
I like that, even though I feel like the narrative still is sort of that, it's Bayern are really bad this season, so Gladbach are good. You could maybe make that argument, but I feel like Gladbach are good despite Bayern being bad, and I think they're like following a game plan that seems to be working for them, and I feel like will continue to work for them until teams figure out how to play against them. So I don't expect them to fall off anytime soon, which means they're going to fall off next weekend.
This is the thing, right? When Bayern stumble, you need someone to sprint.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean? And not to stumble.
And I think everyone
otherwise...
thought it was going to be Dortmund or something like that. Yeah,
I'm feeling Leipzig. Because
they won 8-0?
Yes, just for how many bells tolled for Mainz while we were watching.
Yeah, they really
Frankfurt
killed
Bayern.
Mainz.
And it became like a running joke with us.
The manager
right?
got
bell would
fired
go.
today.
Did it? Well, I think rightly so.
Yeah.
The bell would toll and we'd all be like, it's Leipzig again, isn't it?
Oh, boy.
And it would be.
8-0. Either that
8-0.
or Metallica song's about to come on.
Yeah, it had that vibe too, right?
They've had to retitle that song. It was Mainz.
Quasimodo's Mad Tire. Could y'all stop scoring goals?
I have a final question for part one. Does that work out timing-wise, Mr. Blank?
Yeah, we do. We have about 6 minutes left.
Okay, perfect. And part two is going to be on the Cooligans feed. Weston McKitty asks, do you think Serginho Dest choosing and quickly playing for the full US national team will have any impact on the decisions of the other U20 dual nationals?
Now that he's officially American, you have to call him Serginho. You have to respect the tilde.
Okay.
When he was Dutch, you didn't.
Do you think Serginho Dest choosing and quickly playing for the full US national team will have any impact on the decisions of the other U20 dual nationals?
Probably not.
I agree.
I mean, I think like maybe if they're all friends and he chooses to stay, then everybody will follow him.
Because that's really the reason Dest chose the US,
Yeah.
right? Is that he's just so tight with those U20 players that he wants to stick with them.
I think that's probably
Doesn't want to make friends with Denzel Dumfries.
Probably not.
Do you really believe that?
Yes.
What?
Okay. I heard Ajax pressured him into it.
Yeah, but a lot of people say a lot of things.
Like you just said a lot.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
pressured him into playing for the U.S.?
Yeah, for
because
like
it's better.
marketing
It's better for them.
Huh. I mean,
Because he wasn't.
his
He didn't
actual
really
quotes were
stand.
about how he's like enjoyed his time and he's like looking for the future, and you know what I mean.
I don't think it would have been such a difficult decision for him to make. I don't think he would have had one of those. The video was in Dutch. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it was from Ajax TV.
Yes, but
And
I
that
also,
wasn't the official announcement video either. The quotes when US Soccer released it was in English. Ajax were just faster on the social media than US Soccer.
Yeah, I'm disagreeing with y'all because I feel like to make a career decision like that based on what your now club is telling you to do, I feel like maybe they had some influence. But for them, I just can't imagine that a club is going to be like, hey, go play for the U.S. because it's better for us from a marketing standpoint. That would be enough for me to be like, all right, well, screw you guys. I'm going to another team.
yeah, I don't think they forced him. I think they pressured him. I think they
But that's
made
probably
it,
not the key.
Are those not the same things?
No.
But that's not the key. They might have suggested it even, but that's not.
Do you
the
want
key.
me to explain it in full detail? So look, this old lady owns a bakery, right? But you want it, right? And her husband gambles a lot. Now, let's talk pressure first.
Well, let's say it this way. Maybe Ajax said it's better for us marketing-wise if you play for the US, right? But he also, it's very clear that he's friends with all the other talented U20 players and maybe sees a future playing alongside those guys like Chris Richards and guys like that. He sees a future continuing to represent the US with those players.
I
right?
agree that probably is a big part of it as well.
Yeah, like 99%, right? And then...
But at least, yeah, I do think just
I
at least to
love when he gets like that when I'm on the show. It's the best.
answer the question, at least partly, I do think some dual nationals might be influenced just because the quality of the team will be a little bit better. So at least when they're making the decision between the two, they'll see like, oh, this is a reasonable squad.
Yeah.
And
he does improve the overall quality of the squad.
Based on everyone we've spoken to that has played in the U.S. men's national team or has any opinion about U.S. soccer, it doesn't feel like the issue is the players themselves. You know, it seems like the players seem to play well at their clubs. And then when they get in international duty, something happens. So we would have to say that it's either coaching or the structure or there's something about going to play for the U.S. men's national team that maybe zaps their energy, their interest. It does kind of feel that way.
Carbon monoxide in some of the rooms.
I think this is a little bit like David Beckham choosing LA Galaxy. You know, it may not be the thing that changes everything. We may not see it right away, but I think it adds some credibility to U.S. soccer that I think was kind of missing after Jonathan Gonzalez switched over.
I'm probably being very like naive or idealistic or whatever, but I know there's like commercial aspects to it. I know there's the idea of like, oh, he knew he could start and he knew he could probably go to a World Cup with the U.S. and all of those arguments. I really just kind of believe that he made a choice, and I know there's probably a lot of other factors in there, but. It's also easy for me to say that, and this is the thing that I'm kind of like battling in my head, is that like I was born in the United States. Not that I was ever going to play for the national team, but like that would be the only one. And like we're never asking Michael Bradley, like, do you still want to represent the USA? And it's been weird being here in Germany because we spoke to Timmy Chandler, like all of us did. We spoke to Alfredo Morales today. And it's a strange thing in my mind. It's the like old saying about like people in a like institution, how like you can't prove you're not crazy because if you try to act normal, you look crazier. And it's a thing that like people who are born in the U.S., you're not asking them like which national team are you going to play for. And so when you're asking a dual national, it's hard to like gauge that because like are they giving like is it a satisfactory answer, like is it their second language? It's all these weird things that it's really
we're looking for evidence that they're not fully committed.
Exactly.
Right?
And like I found myself like Timmy Chandler was like, no, of course I want to play for them, but it was a very like matter of fact thing, and it wasn't very emotional. And I was like, well, he wasn't so emotional, like maybe he does, but then it's like, well, like who the hell am I to say like he wasn't emotional enough about
and there's also I know it's felt very dramatic.
Cry, Timmy, come on.
I need you to bang your chest.
It's almost like we're trying to figure out if they're like spies, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's McCarthyism. Are you sure you're not a communist? I think
how many stars should be on the U.S. badge? It should be 3.
I think it's really important to look at this, right? It felt very dramatic in the last.
It should be 4. It should be 4.
It felt very dramatic in the last 2 months, right? But when we look back at this years from now, we will have seen Serginho Dest played for the U17s, played for the U20s, played for the senior national team, and then when it came time to fully commit to the senior national team, Netherlands made it clear we're interested in you. So he missed one international window to make the decision. And then he recommitted to the US, right? So he basically just took a few weeks to like just double check, like, okay, I'm a teenager, I've got these options, let me just think it over. It's like choosing where you go to college, right? You don't just like, you don't just assume you're going to go to the nearest college.
It
was just a quick check.
Here's what messes me up about this. Like, yet again, you know, a U.S. soccer counts this as a win when it's a European player. And here comes the lack of any sort of plan or any change to continue to draw in the Latin American dual nationals. That seemingly, as Latinos, we're left behind. And what frustrates me is U.S. soccer is sort of, you know, propelled this whole thing. Serginho picked us as like it's a real, like it's like a super positive, and it is. And I'm happy for it as a fan of U.S. soccer. But it's, okay, here's a European. You got that one right. But when it comes to Mexicans, when it comes to Central Americans, when it comes to South Americans that can play here, seemingly there's not even a plan in place.
Do you think they didn't spot the tilde until right at the end?
I think they're really upset about it. They're like, geez, God, buddy.
Maybe that's why they were aggrossly courting him, because he didn't have the tilde, and now he does.
Dude, we told all our friends you were black. Damn.
We kept calling you Sergio. Sorry about that, bro.
Yeah. Le Serginho.
Oh, man. All right. Well, is that the last one?
Yeah, I think we'll hand it over. So part 2 of this episode will be on the Cooligans podcast feed. Go find it in all good podcast apps. So very quickly, I'll say on behalf of Christian, Alexis and Taylor, it is goodbye from us, and we will talk to you soon.
Love you guys.